Good morning, friends. Welcome to my channel. Today start Salesforce LWC interview questions, basic to advanced questions. LWC means Lightning Web Components. Start the video. First questions. What is a Lightning Message Service? LMS is a service that allow communications between LWC compounds, Aura compounds, and Visual Force page within a single Lightning page. Next questions. How do you use Lightning Data Service in LWC? You used LDS by importing and using the Lightning UI API models to perform crowd operations. Next questions. How do you deploy an LWC compounds to Salesforce? You deploy an LWC compounds using a Salesforce CLI with command like sfdx, force source push, or sfdx force source deploy. Next questions. What are the reactive properties in LWC? Reactive properties are properties that when change case the compounds to re-renders automatically. Next questions. How do you pass data between LWC compounds? You pass data between LWC compounds using the properties, event, or pub/sub models for the sibling compounds. Next questions. What is the connected the callbacks life cycles hook? The connected callback lifecycle hook is a call when the compounds is insert into the DOM. What is next questions? What is the disconnected callback lifecycle hook? The disconnected callback life cycle hook is a call when the compounds is removed from the DOM. Next questions. How do you call an apex methods from an LWC compounds? You call an apex methods using the wire service for the caching or API decorators for the imperative calls. Next questions. How do you handle errors in LWC? Errors in LWC are handled using try catch block for the imperative apex call and errors handling the machines for wire the methods. Next questions. What is the purpose of the renders callback lifecycle hook? The renders callback lifecycle hook is a call after every renders of the compounds useful for the past rendering logic. Next questions. How do you use template loop in LWC? You use template loops in the LWC with the for each directive in HTML templates. Next questions. How do you connect conditionally renders element in the LWC? You conditionally renders element using the if true and if false reactive in HTML templates. Next questions. How do you import a model in LWC? You import a model in LWC using the standard ES6 import syntax import lightning element API from LWC. Next questions. What is a lightning web compounds? LWC is a framework for the building users interface in Salesforce using the modern web standard like the HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. Next questions. How does LWC offer from Aura compounds? LWC use native web standard and provide better performance, simpler syntax, and improve the developers' productivity compared to the Aura compounds. Next questions. What are the key features of LWC? Key features include the shadow, DOM, standard DOM event, modulars, JavaScript, reactive properties, and templates. Next questions. What is the files structures of LWC compounds. LWC compounds typically include as JavaScript files and HTML template, HTML, CSS files, CSS and metadata configurations files, XMLs. Next questions. How do you create an LWC compounds? You can create an LWC compounds using the Salesforce CLI with the commands SFDC, first lightning the compounds create. Next questions. What is the purpose of the track decorator? The track decorators make properties reactive, allowing the compounds to renders with the properties value the change. Next questions. What is the lightning records from the compounds? The lightning records from compounds is built in LWC compounds that provide from of the creating, viewing and editing the records. Next questions. How do you fetch current users details in LWC? You fetch current users details in LWC using the Salesforce users scope models. Next questions. How do you add a custom icons to the LWC compounds? You add a custom icons by the importing the static resource and using it and in your the compound HTML templates. Next questions. How to use the API decorators? The API decorators is used to propose a property methods to the parents compounds. Next questions. What is the wire service in LWC? The wire service is used to fetch data from the Salesforce declarative without writing the imperative codes. Next questions. How do you handles event in LWC? Event in LWC are the handles using the standard DOM, event handling merchants like the ad, event, listeners, and the custom event with dispatch event. Next questions. What is the shadow DOM and how does it relate to the LWC? Shadow DOM is a web standard for the internal structure of the compounds. LWC use shadow DOM to the is locate style and the markups. Next questions. How do you style and LWC compounds? You can style and LWC compounds using standard CSS in the compounds CSS files, and you can also use SLDS, Salesforce Lightning, the designing systems classes. Next questions. What is a SLDS? SLDS stand for the structured lighting the designing system, a CSS framework for the building the Salesforce style applications. Next questions. How do you import a static resource in LWC? You import the static resource using the Salesforce resource URL, scope, and models. Next questions. How do you navigate between the page in LWC compounds? You can navigate between the page using a navigations magazine from the Lightning the navigations. Next questions. How do you import multiple models in LWC? You import multiple models using the ESC ES6 import syntax, import lighting the element API track for the LWC. Next questions. What is the right adapters in LWC? A wire adapters is a built machines to connect the properties to methods Salesforce data using wire the decorators. Next questions. How do you bind attribute to the HTML element in LWC? You binds attribute HTML's element using the template syntax input value my value. Next questions. How do you create a custom event in LWC? You create a custom event using the custom event contracts and dispatch it with dispatch events. Next questions. What is the purpose of the import show text event from Lightning the platform show event statement? It import the show test event class used to display those notification in LWC. Next questions. How do you use the Lightning input compounds in LWC. You use it by including the Lightning input tag in your the HTML templates. Lightning input labels name, value, name, and Lightning inputs. Next questions. What is the track decorators replace with the in LWC? The track decorators is one is no longer indeed reactive. Properties are now handled natively by LWC. Next question. How do you use the Lightning database compounds? You use is by defining the columns and data is use the JavaScript files and including the Lightning database tag in your the HTML templates. Next questions. How do you cache data in LWC? You cache data using the wire service with the cacheables parameters of wire storing data in the JavaScript variables. Next questions. What is the these template query selectors methods used for in LWC? It is a used to select DOM element with the purpose the elements. Next questions. How do you use slot in LWC? Slot are the used to create a placeholders areas in compounds that can be filled with the markup the passed from the parents compounds using the slot elements. Next question. How do you the dynamically loads models in LWC? You dynamically loads models using the import the function which returns purpose. How do you perform the imperative apex call in LWC? You perform the imperative apex calls, importing the apex methods and using with JavaScript functions. Next questions. How do you debug LWC compounds? You debug LWC compounds using the browser developers tools, adding breakpoints in your the JavaScript codes and using the console tags. Next question. What is the purpose of the HTML file in LWC compounds? The HTML files define the metadata for the compounds, including where it can be the use with the Salesforce. Next questions. How do you handle from the submission in LWC? You handle the submission by adding and event listeners for the submit event and defining the handling logic in JavaScript. Next questions. What is the Lightning records edit from the compounds? The Lightning records edit from the compounds is about LWC compounds that provide from the editing records. Next questions. How do you reference a child's compound in LWC? You reference a child's compounds using the API recorders to expose properties or the methods. Next questions. What is the connect to the callback lifecycle hook and used for? If it is used to execute code when a compounds in insert is insert into the DOMs. Next question. How do you handle promise rejections in LWC? You handle promise rejection using catch on the promise or try catch block with await. Next questions. How do you import static resource for the image in LWC? You import static resource for the image using the Salesforce resource URL scope model and reference. There is your the template. Next question. How do you add keywords event listeners in LWC? Next questions. Sorry. You add the keyboards event listeners using the add event listener in the JavaScript files template add event the key downs and handler by key downs. Next questions. What is the LWC down the manual reactive is for the LWC document is your manual directive allow you to the manually controls the DOM inside templates. Next questions. How do you create a custom lightning icons? You create a custom lightning icons by using the lightning icons compound the specifically icons attribute. Next questions. How do you implement search feature in LWC? You implement the search feature in capturing the user's input, querying the data using the Apex, displaying the result dynamically. Next questions. How do you format the date in LWC? You format date using the JavaScript date time format utility libraries like the moment. Next questions. What is the purpose of the template query selected all in the LWC? It is used to select the multiple DOM element with the compound set templates. Next question, how do you the create a reactive via the property in LWC? The create a reactive the via the properties, reactive the properties and within the via templates. Next questions, lightning web component questions. Next questions, lightning web compounds, very important questions. Next questions, next questions, next questions. How do you handle the multiple template in LWC? You handle the multiple template using the conditionals, redirecting the template tag and LWC. LWC is if and LWC reactives. Next questions. Next questions. Next questions. Sorry. Next questions. How do you handle sections management in LWC? Section management is handled by the leveraging the Salesforce section, the cookies implement the sections in timeout logic, JavaScript, and using the refresh the token for the authentications. Next question, how do you the implement the custom models compounds in LWC? Custom models compound in implemented using the standard HTML, CSS, and for the models structure the JavaScript handle opening, closing, and backdrops interactions. Sorry. How do you the handle dynamic compounds update based user interaction in LWC? Dynamic update the handle using the reactive the properties JavaScript event license listener the conditional the rendering the based on the compound state. Next question, how do you the integrate the Salesforce DX with LWC? Uh, Development. Salesforce DX integrated the using the Salesforce CLI for the project, set up the version control source and tracking, and the CD pipelines for the automated deployment. Next questions. How do we handle the advanced errors handling the and Lightning LWC? Advanced for the handling managed by the using the catch block asynchronous operation implemented global errors handling strategy logging errors to custom the Apex class and extend the monitoring the service. Next questions. How do you create a custom data tables? With advanced features in LWC, custom create a custom data tables in existing Lightning data tables and implementing the custom call renders, store tables and columns and the combinations of features using the JavaScript and CSS code styles. How do you handle complex UI interaction using the LWC JavaScript frameworks? Handle the complex interaction the integrating the JavaScript frameworks, React the value, and with LWC using the custom VPN and communicate between LWC frameworks and managing the state accordingly. Next questions. Thank you, friends. Very important video and LWC requirement interview questions level. So helpful the interview questions. So please subscribe to my channels, like and share and comment. Thank you. Take care. Bye, friends.